Wall to Wall is a brand new 2025 Korean thriller that is on Netflix. And anytime I see a Korean film, especially a thriller or horror, I am immediately pressing play on that. And this follows a young man who saves up enough money to buy his own apartment. Unfortunately, this makes him house poor, or apartment poor, if you want to get technical. And after years of living in this place and kind of driving himself nuts because he has literally no money for anything else except for his place, because he's trying to climb that economic ladder, he starts to experience some very loud noises in his apartment complex, which are keeping him up at night and adding to his stress level. He can't sleep. And what is even added more to his stress is that everyone in the complex believes it is him. And he is desperate to prove that this is someone else setting him up, and he's just a regular Joe trying to live his life and own his place. He also later gets wrapped up in a pump and dump scheme for trading online, and he's just got a lot of stress going on. This is 2 hours long, and it definitely felt a little longer. I was pretty surprised that it was still, like, when I pressed play or pause, I honestly thought this probably had like 10 or 15 minutes left. It still had like an hour, and I was pretty shocked by that. But now, having seen the whole thing and knowing where I was at in the story, thinking that's where it was going to end, and now knowing every single thing that happened, it's like, oh man, it was so far from over, and I'm glad that it was, because this was such a twisty, turny development film where I was sitting back and I was really feeling bad for this guy, and man, he really is put through the ringer in this movie. And the culprits behind this whole thing, like what it all ends up being, is pretty fucked up. Now, I know that this is something I think that a lot of people can relate to. I mean, I can't imagine someone not being able to relate to this, because if they can't, then lucky you. But I would say a good majority of people have lived in apartment complexes or apartments, and I currently do. I have lived in apartments most of my adult life. I've not had a lot of homes. I've lived in townhomes, which are basically apartments, and I've lived in straight up apartments. I've lived in duplexes. I've lived in a lot of communal living spaces. But I have not lived in many houses since I got out on my own. Just a couple. And yeah, of course, having a house, having separate walls and distance from your neighbors is ideal. But I looked this up after watching this movie just out of curiosity, and it is a large majority of South Korea that lives like this. And there was some bad building practices, and even though they're supposed to pass like sound checks now, there's, of course, I'm sure there's all sorts of corruption and fuckery going on. And this is kind of a commentary on Korean living and classism, and it's trying to be a parable, like something like a Parasite or Squid Game or anything like that. And yeah, I enjoyed this one. I don't think I'd ever watch it again, so it's like a one-time watch, but I thought it was a damn good one-time watch, because if you've ever had that, if you ever watched like one of those paranoia films where the person is like living in their house, living their life, just trying to get by, and they keep kind of getting framed for things, and you feel that level of anger because you know you're watching the thing, you know that it's not them, and it's very frustrating to watch unfair things happen to just everyday people. Like, this guy is just like so many others, and kind of watching his life fall apart is maddening, and you're really rooting for him to expose the truth, to get vindicated or validated. And it's the ending is somewhat satisfying, not completely satisfying, but I think they went more for the message than catharsis. It's still good, and I still liked it, and I don't need it to be some super happy ending where he's dancing on rainbows and everything's great. I honestly would have really liked had there been another aspect of the film from earlier come back up. It's something I mentioned earlier. I thought that's the way it was going to go. Thought he was going to check his computer and find out something in the end. But that's not the way it went. And that's okay. Ultimately, I did really like the twist, and I did like the writing on our main character, and he did feel pretty believable, and you really did feel for him. So this was a hell of a ride with this guy, and I was pretty surprised at how many twists and turns there were. It kind of reminds me a bit, not exactly by any means, because it's like almost a complete. It's not a completely different story, but it's a pretty different story, but still a lot of similarities. Is the movie Pacific Heights with Michael Keaton, which is a really damn good '90s thriller. So yeah, I dug this one. I did have a really good time with this one. So I hope that some people who like these types of movies will check it out, give it a chance. It's 2 hours long. It's in Korean, so there's subtitles. Although, because it's a Netflix original, they did include an English dub. So if you're somebody who's against reading subtitles, the dub is there for you. But yeah, yeah, this was quite good. This was quite good. I was looking forward to this one. It's not the film I thought it was going to be at all. When I saw the poster for it, like when Netflix and you're paused for too long and it comes up and it shows you all these different things, it made it look like it was going to be a trapped in a room type of movie, where the walls were closing in or something and he had to try to get out, some kind of sci-fi thing, which I love, or a trap type thing, like in a one room. That's the way it looked, and I was like, oh, that's what got me excited about it. And then I started watching it, and it kind of reminded me of the Chinese film Dream Home, which is one of the great slashers of the last couple decades. And if you haven't seen that, you're a slasher fan, and you want to talk about like the kind of cultural issues of China. I think that's a really good one for classism as well, and being somebody who really desperately wants to kind of fit in and climb that economic ladder, as I had said previously, and it's just like the whole world keeps kicking them and they cannot get out from under. Now that movie goes wildly different than this one, but it does share some similarities. So anyways, I'm babbling at this point. It's 1:30 in the morning. I should probably go to bed. But I hope you guys check this one out. It's definitely going to be extremely overlooked. No one's going to be talking about this one. No one's going to be watching this one. So be one of the people who does. And let me know. And I'll see you in the comments. Adios.